Guys, if you've got a concrete floor and like to keep your equipment inside out of the weather, man, putting it on top of these furniture dollies is the ticket. It just lets you move it around wherever you want to put it and really optimize your shop, and then you don't have to run your tractor inside as much while you're hooking it up. So they're not very expensive. If there's a link to Amazon, I'll put it down below, but we're going to do some mowing with this finish mower from WoodMax, and it's going to be a little bit different way of mowing. We'll get into that after we get it hooked up. This is the WoodMax FM62H, and it's a side shift flail mower, but we don't have any rear hydraulics here on the Kubota. So I did a video where we put it on the Summit, and the Summit has rear hydraulics and we're able to shift it left and right. But you can use this on a non-rear remote tractor, and that's what we're going to do today. And if your centerpiece here isn't in the center, you can always just crack the line on the hydraulics and you can push it left or right. It's going to make a little bit of a mess, a little bit of hydraulic oil will come out, but you can run this type of mower, whether it's WoodMax or any other that has hydraulic cylinders that move it left or right. You can run it on a non-hydraulic or non-rear remote tractor. Also, if you didn't know, your hydraulics will go down, or your lift arms on your 3-point hitch will go down even when your tractor is off. And you can lift them up manually because they are only hydraulically lifted. They're not hydraulically powered down. So when you push them down like this with the hydraulics, or let them down with the hydraulics, you can just physically grab them and lift them up. But the reason I have to test fit this first is because I sized a PTO shaft for the Summit, and the Summit has a lot less space here than the Kubota. So I don't know if I have to cut the PTO shaft that goes on here. I just got to push it up here and take a quick measurement. And it being on dollies just makes it so much easier to do this, to hook it up, because it's a heavy piece of equipment. It's 716 pounds, so you're not going to throw it around easily. But I got the pins basically lined up there, the 3-point hitch pins. So let me put this PTO shaft on and see if we have to cut it. Yeah, we probably need to cut it a little bit to be safe. I'll show you what the angles I'm looking at, or the length that I'm looking at here. Got pretty good line up here on our 3-point lift arms, and we're looking at the PTO shaft, and what you don't want is what we have here, which is a PTO shaft that's longer than the distance that you have. Ideally, this shaft is probably too short by maybe 3 inches, but this shaft is too long by the distance from here to here. So about, I don't know, 4 inches or so has to be cut off the bottom shaft. Mainly what you're looking for is a lot of overlap, a foot or more of overlap. You could have overlap all the way to here, but this one's already been cut to size for the Summit. So let me cut that real quick, get that together, and then we can get it hooked up. PTO shaft is on, and here is the beauty of having this thing on rollers. I can keep the tractor off and hook up my 3-point hitch, and I can also make sure it's level here on the concrete. You can see that that lift arm there is a little bit low to be in the middle pin, so I have to adjust this lift arm. So I'm going to make an adjustment here on this one lift arm, and it's going to change the height of that one over there. And what that does is it keeps that roller of this flail mower level so that one side isn't dipping left or right. Because if it does that, then it's going to hold up one side of the mower as you're mowing. And you want as even a cut as possible. I think we're all set. Let's head back to the plot and talk about what we'll be doing today, which I'm going to call high lift mowing, which is basically keeping your mower as high as it'll go behind your 3-point hitch. And mowers aren't made for that. Almost every mower relies on a certain amount of lift to lift the grasses up to be cut. And when you have your mower high above the ground, there's no lift at all. And I'm by no means an expert on a flail mower. This is my second time using this WoodMax flail mower, but I have a lot of experience with other types of mowers, like a brush hog or a finish mower. So I know what to expect as far as a quality cut, and I'm really excited and interested to see how this flail mower does in this field back here. This is our 1-acre field here on Piney Grove, and it was planted last fall in grains, clover, and Austrian winter peas. So what we want to do today is knock off the tops of all these grains, because the rye, wheat, and oats that are out there are starting to go to a seed head, and this field is not going to get combined. We're not trying to get the grains out of this field, so we want to leave as many nutrients as possible here. And a lot of those nutrients right now are going to make a grain head. Here's a good example right here. We've got rye, and this is not rye grass, but rye grain. And it's starting to make its head. And that's when it uses a lot of nutrients out of the soil. And what we're trying to do is keep a cover crop here of that clover. So you see this real big leafed clover. We have crimson clover here. That's a Austrian winter pea right there. And this winter pea is a legume, so it actually takes nitrogen out of the air and puts it in your soil. It tastes just like a green pea, like a pea you would buy in the grocery store, and you shell it out and eat the pea. The leaves of this taste just like that. Something that was mixed in our seed, and I didn't know what these were. I thought it was a weed. But then I pulled it up, and it's actually a daikon radish or some sort of radish. And that was just in the seed mixture that I bought. And that takes those long roots and goes down in there and scavenges nutrients and brings them to the top. So that's a good thing to have in your soil as well if you're building soil. I spy an oat over here just to show you what an oat looks like. So that's an oat. Just like you feed your horses or your cows oats. So that's an oat seed head. So that's what we're trying to do. Just knock off all this stuff that is done providing for the deer herd, and let things like the legumes get more sunlight and let them flourish and bring nitrogen into the soil. Actually, I had Hank Hamilton here from Hamiltonville Farms a couple weeks ago because he's trying to do a food plot and build his soil. And we've been working on building the soil here for 7 years. So when we first planted, it was really, really bad. We didn't get crops, or we didn't get a field that looks like this. But we're trying to get his place looking like this. And so go over and check out his channel as he works through soil samples and lime and fertilizer and all the things that you need to create a thriving field like this. Now remember, we're going to run it as high as it'll go so we don't damage that clover. Now when I engaged the PTO on the 25 horsepower Summit, it stalled the tractor. Let's see what it does here with the 39 horsepower Kubota. Not the same issue, no problem. I'm actually going to lower it just a little bit. A little bit lower. So I went down and back one time, and my first impression is really, really good. I like using the finish mower this way to knock off the tops, because with a brush hog kind of floats on the back of your tractor and it bounces a lot, and the tail wheel bounces a lot, and it just sounds like it's getting beat up. This was silky smooth. It doesn't bounce around. It's heavy at 715 pounds. It doesn't bounce around. And what it also doesn't do is it doesn't cut off these tall stems and leave tall stems. It leaves a nice, fine, chopped up thatch, or whatever you want to call it, clippings, I guess. And it will allow those clippings to go down to the ground and return those nutrients to the soil. And it totally just opened this up so that clover and everything else that's here didn't get damaged, but it allows sun to get down there, so that should really flourish. And it's kind of like a neat crew cut across there. So I really like this application of a flail mower. There's a lot of things that you can do with a tractor, and when you try it, it doesn't turn out the way you want it. And you got to try a different implement or a different method, but I love this. I used the flail mower behind the Summit tractor, and whatever I was doing, I couldn't get it right. I couldn't get it close enough to the ground, or anyway, I couldn't get the adjustments right. And also it was really dragging down that 25 horsepower tractor. Now, it could handle it. The mower says 20 horsepower minimum, but I don't know if that's PTO horsepower or engine horsepower. So if it's 20 PTO horsepower that's required, that would make sense why the Summit struggled with it. But that takes a lot of power to turn something rotating like that. It's just, there's gears and there's transfer of direction or change in direction, and all that robs power. But this Kubota, 39 horsepower, 30 horsepower at the PTO with a hydrostatic transmission, it doesn't really even know it's back there. And I can go as fast as the land will allow. I was wondering why it was so bumpy out here. And that's because Deb dissed in this field when we planted it, and she went diagonal across here for erosion and also just to change the direction of tillage for compaction and other reasons. And I forgot that, and I was flying back and forth and it was bouncing me around, but still gave a fairly even cut for that. So I'm just impressed all around with a flail mower in this application. And if I wanted to lower it so that I could get a closer cut to the ground, there's a lot of dirt clods there from the disking, so the dirt clods might stick up in places 3 or 4 inches, and I don't want the new blades on the mower to hit that. So I want to preserve the mower, or at least preserve the sharpness of the blades for as long as possible, so I can do real clean mowing. But again, impressed by this whole setup, this tractor, along with this mower. It seems to be a perfect match. The only thing that would be more perfect is if I had rear remotes on the tractor, so that I could shift it to the side, and that way you wouldn't be mowing over top of your tracks. But that's $1,200, and I'm looking at buying a new bigger tractor here shortly, so I don't want to put any more money into this Kubota. I've got about 1/3 of this field done, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. But you guys let me know, if I'm doing a project like this, do you want to see like the whole process? Because it's going to be a lot of the same, right? Going back and forth. And I'll actually come in at the end of this video with some more information if I learn more, but at this point, I think I know everything I need to know about the mower and how it's going to operate, and be able to convey that information to y'all. But just let us know down in the comments, do you enjoy this type of content? When I'm mowing, do you want to see the finished product? Do you want to see the whole process from beginning to end? We love interacting with you guys. We love to read your comments. We love to respond to them. And sometimes we don't agree, and that's perfectly fine. That's the backbone of America, is being able to agree to disagree and still come away from it as friends. I'll leave you with some video of the field when it's finished, but until next time, y'all take care out there, and remember, life's short, tractor hard.